There we go. So, since we are about to set up the queue and the worker for this stuff, we can try to install this stuff like this. So we try to kind of install what we need. So in this case, we need boolmq, fedas mongoose, wait. Okay. I think I would skip this one. Sorry, that was a mistake. That was supposed to be fedas mailer, I think. Then node mailer. Actually, I could have used fedas like mongoose to do my kind of fedas mongoose, which is like the wrapper around mongoose. So that's like enable you to use mongoose within fedas. I could have used it to set up this stuff, but we are not using MongoDB. So yeah, in fact, we could even go for fedas, which fedas Prisma. I think there should be fedas Prisma. I think I've used it before. I'm not sure. I think so. I can check to confirm, but okay. So then we are using EJS2, so we are going to install that. Okay, now it's installed. So let's move on. Wait, I actually did not know when it got installed. So that's not all actually. We still need to install uh, the types for NodeMailer and then for EJS, except if NodeMailer's finally I doubt it. So so we install these. Now we should be able to go into the courier class, which is where the bulk of what we want to do will be. So we have this service. I think this is probably the first time you get to like see us work with like get to see me work with the service stuff. So in this service, this is a custom service, but as you can see, it's a class that implements the service interface provided by Fedas. And for the service interface, you have to provide like the response interface, the uh, interface that defines like the schema for um, for creating new entries for this service in case maybe its interface is in case it's integrates with like data storage, like if in case you have to kind of do some data storage stuff. Then the service params, which handles like the parameters. We'll talk more about these service params. It's like one of the very powerful stuff that Fedas object that Fedas provide. And then we have this courier arch, which is in case you are trying to deal with update stuff. So if you are in this case, you kind of in this our case we need to set up some things. So that's why I'm coming here first. Normally I like to start from this schema, and the thing is the moment I start from this schema, everything here will become red because first of all we are not using text, so we'll have to pull that off. So but now let's start with this. So I'm going to go queue because I need to set up a queue. So that's like the goal of this particular video. It's to set up a queue. So I'm going to search and just pull in MQ, move it to the top. And then another thing I would like to do should be the worker. Uh, so I could also just do private and define like the worker. So in this case too, I can pull in worker from bool MQ. And the cool thing is when you run the bool MQ worker, you would see that you can pass in like the data type and the result type and the name type. So you can pass that in, and if you over on the queue, you have something similar because all these things are generic anyway. So for the queue, you have the data type or job, the default result type, and the default name type, and you still have other things like the actual data type, you know. Yeah, you could do that, like expand this beyond just what it is. So in my case, I don't really know what I'm doing yet, so why would I? Like, so another thing I want to do is I would like to define like the events for this queue. So I'm going to do like queue events. And for this, I think Fedas also provide like a queue events, if I'm not mistaken. Then another thing I want to do is to kind of set up the mailer. That's why I installed Fedas mailer, because Fedas actually provides us with a service that handles like sending of emails, but I don't want to use the service directly because I want to do other stuff like, you know, templating and things like that. So I can use Fedas mailer, which obviously I can have access to right now. So let me see. I think I can do mailer as in mail. I think I should be able to get I think I can get mailer from Fedas mailer like this. Let me over on it. That should return a function. Yeah, it returns a function that returns a service. So meaning that what I need is the return type of, if I say the return type of this, that will be, wait, I think so. So what will the return type of this be? Let me see. Yeah, service, yeah, cool. So something like this is what I'm looking at. Okay. So lastly, I would like to kind of track the templates. The templates, should I say part or directory? Directory look like a pretty ugly name to me. Something like this is ugly, but we don't have a choice. So now inside here, I can begin to do stuff. So for example, first of all, I can be like, okay, I want like a super, just pass the option to like the parents, and this will fail because we are not using we are not extending an existing class, so we cannot exactly do this, so that's not needed. So we can decide to just, you know, initialize the queue. I think we are using this thing here, so this dot queue should be equals to queue So what name should I give this? Should I call it mail? Should I call it courier? So in here I need to provide connection. So for the connection I just need to provide like I think normally this thing gives me access to the app, so I think I should be able to access the app here. So in that case that should make sense. So I should be able to say hosts, and I should be able to say options dot app dot get. So normally you can configure like an environmental variable and access it through get. So in this case I can do get redis. In fact, I could just do something like this: options dot app dot get, and then just do, let me see. So in this case, yeah, I just say redis. Currently redis is not set, so this is supposed to fail for now. Am I not making a mistake? I hope I'm not. So let me go to configuration and just set up that redis. So I'm going to set up an object, and in that object I just have to provide the hosts and say that it's a string. Let me see if there's a way to enforce the formats. I could say IP version 4, IP version 6, but that would be too restrictive because it means I have to get like the IP, and there's nothing like hosts here. So okay, there's host name, but what does this host name gives us? Because I have to be careful when setting the format, or else it's gonna fail. So since I'm the one that is going to be setting, this, the only thing I can do is set the default to to local hosts, even if that default often doesn't work. So then I'm going to set this to 6379, which is like the default port if you set up Redis locally. So yeah, in this case I have this configuration now, so meaning that I have to go into config defaults and set up that default here. So I can say Redis. So yeah, I can just set up like hosts, set it to local hosts, and then set up the ports and set it to 6. So I can remove this, and yeah, so I set like the defaults. So yeah, I can come down here and be like, okay, so I can be like, okay, I want to set the host to this. Yeah, exactly like this. So normally we are setting like a number, you have to tell Fedas that, okay, I want you to format this as a number, because every environmental variable is gotten as a string. So if you want to format it as a number, or you want to format it as something else, you have to tell Fedas that you want to format it into that. So here we go. You can. So now we've done this, we should be able to. We shouldn't get an error here now. So good. So and for the connection, this, if I hover on this, yeah, if I hover on this, you would see that you get hosts and ports expected, and then okay, so I think yeah, this should be fine. So we've set up like a queue, and we've added it to this.queue. So this queue should now kind of give us what we want. So another thing I want to set up should be we need to initialize. I like using the word initialize a lot, so I'll just initialize node mailers transporter, because yeah, we need that for sending the email. So I can just call this, normally I should call this transport, so I can call this the transport. So then creates transports coming from feathers here, and then we can provide like the options dot email config. So that's like saying app dot get I think this should be fine. I can't say mailer, doesn't make sense to me. Let me see the configurations what we have so far. I think I'll just use email. So I think for the email, let's just set the type objects. So for the hosts, we can go for type dots this. I think for these formats, we can actually do host name. That should probably work. I hope so. So then for the ports, it's a number. For the we also need to specify whether it's secure or not. So in this case, we can set the default to false. Then the hot value. So I think normally it comes in two forms. You can decide to use hot, or you can decide to use token. If you are using token, it probably means you are using like a mail provider, like maybe Mailtrap or Mailgun, or this kind of stuff. So I can have user to be a string, and then I can have pass to be a string. I think this should work. This should work. There is something missing here, but I don't want to add it here. So meaning I have to go to this class and kind of transform some things. So I'm thinking of something. I have this options guy here, right? Like through this I get access to like the app, which I probably will be needing. So but I want to add something. So for example, I want to add, so rather than having to track all these things this way, what if we can just access it like Redis? So what if we can just access, I just call it config, and for this config we can just access Redis. I do wish I could access this thing directly. Let me see, is it possible to access this configuration? Application configuration. Cool, I think they should give me access to it. Let me see. Cool. So something like this, then we can now have templates. You can set that to a string this way. So I think this should work, meaning that this one cannot be public anymore. So meaning that now I have to also add private app and set it to application. Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking, because if you make this public, it means you can access all these configurations publicly, and also I would really like that app be read only. that you can make. So yeah, I can start with that. So I think I'll set this up, but I'm not done with that. So I actually like to set this outside here. So in that case, I can do this if I start doing any of this. So yeah, I can do this. So then I've created a transport. The next thing I need to do is to create a service from that transport, and we can use the mailer guide that we have here. So normally when you initialize this, it should give you back a service. So in that case, we can just do dot mailer equals mailer. Then we can pass in the transports. So this shouldn't fail. Yes, cool. So now that we have that, we can now kind of set up like the worker. So in this case, I would like to call it setup worker for processing jobs or email jobs. I think I prefer it that way. So in this case, I can just do this dot worker, set it to the new worker instance, give it a name, same career, and then we could decide to do it this way, or like we could decide to pass the job this way, or we can just simply do this dot we can call it let's see, I don't even know what to call it. This one says I should call it process email. I don't like all these names. I like short names. Should I just use dot process? Or should I just call it setup worker? I'm saying process email. Process email sounds weird to me. Since it's a function, if I was given the function an actual name, that means I could call it. I could have just call it setup worker. But in this case, I think going with process. Should I just call it worker? Okay, it's not setup worker actually, it's a function. Oops, yeah. I think I was making a mistake to assume that I would be doing this inside here. So I think process email should be fine, like process email job. Then I can bind it with this because I want to kind of have access to all these things that are here, like for example, the template directory and all those kind of things. So, and then I can just go and pass connection, same connection stuff. So this means it will be using a different connection to this guy. I think so. Normally, there's a way in Redis you could kind of create like an actual connection, which is what I normally do. I'll create an actual connection up here, pass that connection to this, pass that same connection to this. So another thing I like doing is to specify like the concurrency. I like using 5, mainly because of the space on my device. So, and we have this guy worker, but we don't really have the email guy. So I'm just going to set up like a private async process. In fact, this process email job doesn't make sense to me. What if I just call it send? Yeah, sounds more cool. So I can just call it send. I could set job to any, but I hate that so much. So so yeah, I'm going to say send an email using the provided data, just like ours. So I'm going to call it job. So now this is the point I want to set like an actual interface for this. So yeah, I could come down here and just do so I could come down here and just do an export, specify type, let me see. So yeah, I can do this. So what are we expecting the data to look like? So we can do something like interface email job, and then how will I say email job? Mailer job data. So here I can specify like from which often I don't actually normally specify that. In fact, I think I normally like setting. So I don't think I like setting from. I like making sure that I can set that directly. So except maybe I'm sending from one user to another user. In fact, that one self, I don't need you to send me this stuff. I can access the current user data and then send it. So in this case, I'm just going to say string. We need the subject. Basically, yeah, everything we have here is quite accurate. Then we might also have an attachment. I didn't even think of this, but what if we do have an attachment? So let me try to see if I could consider these two. So this part can be a URL. So there we go. I think this should be fine. Normally I should be moving this, not like I should be moving this away from here. So let me do something since I've already been calling out this thing Courier. So I'm just going to say Courier job data. So normally I should move this away from here into the schema. Well, let's leave it here. So I can turn this around to be Courier job data this way. So that way I would need to so wait, Sorry, I'm just surprised as to why I'm getting this. Okay, interesting. So if I import job, and do it such that job is the one with this. Oh, that works. So yeah, it was just complaining because the types were not matching each other. So now it's working. There is a job um, class which is also a generic. So I just basically pass that and specify like what the data type is going to look like. So that's what I did here. So so in this case now, I think it's time to kind of do like, I could do something like this, but this is just too simple for me to be doing that. So rather than doing this, we are just going to go straight with the try. And then I often like writing my catch first. So for this, wait, this is the first time I've seen something like this. Let me see if that exists. Because I know I've never seen that before. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at logger. So I'm going to import that logger.error. Then I'm just going to say email sending, error sending email, and this is going to fail because this guy is unknown. So to fix that, I could just set this to any. But if I had like an something that restricts me from using the any, like if I set up my configuration, TypeScript configuration, not to use any, which is what I do, I would have to now do something like this. So that way I can easily just access this. Now note I cannot do that directly here. It's going to complain because the catch can only accept any or unknown or probably never. So yeah. So here we go. So I have this. Now I have kind of, log this stuff whenever there's a problem. So yeah, I can just start work. So for example, I would like to first set up like the mail option. So in this case, I'm going to set it to send mail option, which is a feather stuff. So that is going to force me to like kind of enter what needs to be entered. So for example, the from. As for the from, I could just use the, wait a minute. Oh, that was only what accessible through the, then. So that means I have to actually do a direct get. Not nice. And then access this and access users. Not so nice. Plus, in fact, most times I would prefer to set up an actual from guy. Just in case. So, but I can set this as optional. So I can set it as optional just in case, because I've seen scenarios where using this will fail. So in case you set the from, then it means it's going to start with that. So first of all, let me just do the, oops, I can't even do that here. So let me first do like let me just do email and then set it to app.get this, so that it will be easy to retrieve all this. So I can say email dot from, or email dots. In fact, I don't like keeping stuff like this. It's not too long. It's majorly probably because this is how I normally have my stuff. This or this. So, but now it's bigger, so I think that's why it looks longer. Sorry, this is supposed to be from. So we can use app.apply. Yeah, thank God it suggested that. So and then we can just do two to be job dot data dot two, and then we can do subjects to be job dot data dot subject and HTML to be templates then yeah, you might be like, where's templates coming from? So good. First of all, you can't get access to HTML from here. The only thing you can do instead is to specify like a template ID. In an interesting scenario, sometimes I kind of do like, you can kind of set up your template to be saved to the database, like the content of your template. So you can save it to the database and then retrieve it from the database. But in our case, we are just using like a file, so we have like a folder somewhere, and the template ID simply refers to like the relative part from that folder. That means within that folder, where should we get what this thing should we get access to. So that's what it's going to look like. So if it looks like that, it means outside here I can do something like this and just say templates ID and this. So this way I can just reduce this to this, reduce this, and then here I can do something. Okay, let me just say load the template. So I can do const templates. We can't do this. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to await this dot render. Then I'm going to pass the template ID, and then the template ID can actually be the template name, but it can also be like a part. So I pass that, and then I can just do template here. So as the HTML, though that doesn't make sense. If I can just instead say HTML here. So that way I can remove this that. Just send email. So after the setup of this, I can go on to just say if attachments or if data.attachment. I have almost forgotten this. I think it's because Copilot was on that suggested it to me before that, so it reminded me again because I've forgotten that that exists. So I can set it to this my complaint. Let me see. Is it going to try any errors? Most I may not if mail.attachment itself is I need to know what kind of object it stores. What is attachments? Set it, and it's going to be something different. File name. Wait, this is weird. Oh, it extends attachments like, so this one comes with content, which is a buffer, a string, a buffer, or a string, and a path, so a URL. So why is it everything here is basically optional? Interesting. Okay, so that means I should be expecting part contents. Let me see. That was what I passed for the assessment. Part file name. Okay, if I pass part, that means I cannot pass content because it's going to use the part for me. That makes sense. Then I can pass file name, but that means file name opts to be optional. If there's no file name, it's going to extract it from the stuff. Then also I want to be able to set like the yeah, I think content transfer encoding for the attachment is not set to derive it from the content type, which content type is also derived from file name if not set. Quoted printable base 64. At this point, I think I can pass the encoding. Or should I? Content type. Since I don't know what it's supposed to be, I think I will just do something like this instead. Basically something like this. Let me see. It's actually coming from where. This is weird, but yep. So if that's the case, that means I don't have no Miller here. So let me do something like this. So assuming I comment this out. Sorry, I'm checking something. So I have email. Just trying to see if this is accessible. Interesting. So I can only access it from this, which is fine. So yeah, so I kind of import the entire namespace. Weird. Okay, so I have this, and yeah, I think that fixes this issue. Then finally I can just await. Do I even need to await? Yeah, just to make sure. hopefully shouldn't. Oh my god. I think this should be done. Then there's one last step. Gosh, I don't even know how many. Wow, seems this video is gonna be the longest I've made. So one last step here is I need to kind of wait. I didn't complete this stuff. So the next thing is to kind of render this using the provided data. I think I made another mistake, which is I should actually allow possibility to pass template data this way. I like grouping things, so I will just do templates id string so that way I have access to template directly, and I can simply do id this way and do template data this way. So so here we go. Sorry, I'm being quiet for the most part now. So async render id string, then data record string any, if I had any set as in this thing, I would have just used unknown because I don't think I care about what the type looks like. So the parts. So the parts, I need to import parts, and then I can just join these dots template dir, and then the let's see. So I need to check if there's an extension. Check. If id as an extension. So yeah, part actually provides you with something called xname, which you can use to kind of get the extension of the path. So basically the same thing you would do if it's something easy to implement. Just the same thing you would do with splits. So for example, you might just split by the last dots and then return that last portion. So you can do that. So but since part already provides it, I'm using that. So now this is going to return string, but then there's something you should take note that it's going to return an empty string if there is no dot in the last portion, or the first character of it is a dot. So if the first character is a dot, it's going to return an empty string. So meaning now you have to kind of target, okay, is there an extension? So the way to figure that out, you just check, okay, if there's an extension, just do this. Otherwise, if there's no extension, we are not using handlebar, so we are using EJS. So we'll go with .ejs this way. A much interesting approach would be to check if it is not this. So and then just do as extension. So I can do this and then just to add this extension. So now I can just return like EJS. Did I import that? How is this stuff able to know that? Weird. So we return EJS dot render file, and then the data received. So I think most of our arrays should be gone, probably. Okay, we still have this guy, so we need to implement this guy. In fact, we've not even created the create. We've not worked on the create that should help us create, because normally this is the method we want to use to kind of perform the task of adding this is the method I want to use to kind of perform the task of actually sending the email. So like preparing the job and stuff like that. So this is the method we want to use to do that. So we are not even there yet. I think I have to stop here. So in the next one, we'll continue with trying to like set up these queue events. Did I set it up before? I doubt I did. I don't think I did. So I have to set that up. The queue event has to be set up here. So we'll do that in the next class, in the next episode. Sorry. See you there. Bye.